The galactic broadcast began with a somber tone, the kind that signaled to all sentient species under the Council's dominion that something monumental was about to unfold. In the Council chamber, a vast room of cold obsidian and glowing blue circuitry, the Supreme Arbitrator stood tall, his form, vaguely humanoid but adorned with ridged scales and piercing black eyes, commanded silence. Behind him, an array of screens displayed the faces of captured human children, their frightened expressions magnified for the galaxy to see. The arbitrator's voice, amplified by alien technology, was a guttural growl that resonated across planets. Earth has defied our rule for too long. Their primitive kind clings to delusions of independence, refusing to bow to superior forces. Let this day serve as a reminder to all who would oppose the Galactic Council. On Earth, billions of humans watched in stunned silence. The broadcast had overridden all networks. Its images streamed into every city, every outpost, and every bunker. Among the viewers, John Mercer, the de facto leader of Earth's resistance, stood rigid in the command center beneath a reinforced mountain. His scarred face, a map of battles fought and lost, betrayed no emotion, but the tremor in his clenched fists told another story. As the arbitrator turned to face the children behind him, chained and trembling, Mercer muttered, "They wouldn't dare." But they would. The Council's soldiers, a grotesque species of insectoids known as the Karath, approached the children, their bladed appendages gleaming under the chamber's sterile light. The first child, a boy no older than 10, was dragged forward. His pleas for mercy echoed through the chamber, transmitted to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Then, without hesitation, the executioner's blade fell. A collective gasp rose from Earth's command center. A younger soldier, barely out of his teens, staggered back from the monitor. "Commander Mercer, we have to do something," he blurted. Mercer didn't respond immediately. His eyes remained locked on the screen as 2 more children were led to their deaths. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm, deliberate. "Shut it off, we've seen enough." The technician hesitated, but Mercer's glare was unyielding. The screen went dark, leaving the room in an oppressive silence. Gregor Thorne, Mercer's second-in-command, broke it.
"John, this isn't war anymore, this is extermination." Thorne's voice was sharp, his words cutting through the room like a blade. Unlike Mercer, Thorne was younger, with a lean frame and calculating eyes that always seemed to be 2 steps ahead. "If we don't respond now, we lose more than just lives. We lose the will to fight." "I know," Mercer replied, turning away from the blank screen. He walked to a large table in the center of the room, its surface displaying a holographic map of Earth and the surrounding sectors under alien control.
"This changes everything." "What's the plan?" Thorne asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. "We use them," Mercer said simply. Thorne froze. "The werewolves? You're serious?" Mercer leaned forward, his hands gripping the edges of the table. "We've been holding them back, waiting for the right moment. This is it. The Council thinks they've broken us, but they have no idea what we're capable of." The room erupted into murmurs. Most of the soldiers present had heard rumors about the werewolf program, humans genetically enhanced with lycanthropic traits to become living weapons, but few believed they were real. Thorne crossed his arms, his skepticism evident. "You know what deploying them means, John. Once they're unleashed, there's no going back. They don't follow rules, they follow instinct." Mercer met Thorne's gaze. "Good, because instinct is exactly what we need right now." The base where the werewolves were kept was hidden deep within the Rocky Mountains, shielded from both the Council's scanners and prying human eyes. Mercer and Thorne arrived via a secure transport, their small entourage silent as they descended into the facility's dimly lit corridors. Kyle, the pack's alpha, waited for them in the central chamber. He stood apart from the others, his massive frame casting a long shadow under the harsh lights. His eyes, an unnatural shade of gold, locked on to Mercer the moment he entered. "John," Kyle said, his voice low and gravelly.
"I was wondering when you'd call us." Mercer stepped forward, unflinching despite the primal energy radiating from the alpha. "It's time, Kale. The council crossed a line." "They've crossed plenty of lines," Kale replied, his lips curling into something between a snarl and a grin. "What makes this different?" "They executed children," Thorn interjected, his tone sharper than he intended. He regretted it immediately as Kyle's gaze shifted to him, those golden eyes narrowing.
"We saw," Kale said, his voice cold. "Your people think we don't have access to your broadcasts, but we do. Every one of my pack saw what they did." He stepped closer, his towering presence forcing Thorn to stand his ground. "And we're ready to make them pay." Mercer placed a hand on Kale's shoulder, drawing his attention back. "Then you understand the stakes. This isn't just about vengeance. We need to show the galaxy that Earth isn't to be trifled with. Can you control your pack?" Kyle's grin widened, revealing sharp, wolf-like teeth. "We're not the ones who need control, Mercer. The Council's soldiers will wish they had some when we're done with them." In the days that followed, the pack prepared for their first mission. Each member of the team brought unique strengths to the table. Lucas, the scout, could traverse any terrain undetected. Dren, the pack's enforcer, was a walking juggernaut of brute strength, and Cade, the strategist, combined his wolf instincts with a razor-sharp mind. Kyle led them through brutal training drills, pushing the limits of their already superhuman abilities. Mercer and Thorn observed from a control room, their expressions a mix of awe and trepidation. "They're ready," Mercer said after one particularly grueling session where the pack tore through a simulated alien garrison in record time. "Ready to fight," Thorn replied. "But what happens when the fighting's over? Can you rein them in, John?" Mercer didn't answer immediately. He knew the risks, but he also knew there was no other choice. The Council had made their move, and now it was Earth's turn. As the werewolves boarded the stealth transport that would take them to their first target, Kyle turned to Mercer one last time. "We'll show them what it means to hunt," he said. Mercer nodded. "Make them fear us." With that, the transport's doors closed, and the pack was gone, leaving behind a world waiting anxiously for their vengeance. The Council's orbital garrison above the planet Draxus was a fortress in space, a sprawling construct of blackened metal and plasma barriers. It orbited a barren world that served as one of the Karath's primary supply hubs, sending war materials across the galaxy to reinforce Council operations. To the untrained eye, the garrison appeared impenetrable, with its automated defenses and countless patrol ships. But Kyle and his pack weren't untrained. Inside the stealth transport, the air was tense but focused. Kyle stood near the cockpit, his claws idly tapping against the metal wall as he studied the holographic map of the garrison. "Lucas," he growled, turning to the scout. "You see a way in?" Lucas leaned closer to the display, his amber eyes scanning the intricate layout. "There's a blind spot in their patrols near the southern docking bay. Small, but enough for us to slip through if we time it right." Kyle nodded. "Dren, you'll take point once we're inside. We move fast, hit hard, and vanish before they know what hit them." Dren grinned, cracking his knuckles. "Finally, I was starting to think all this sneaking around would make me soft." Cade, seated nearby with a tablet in hand, interjected. "Focus, Dren. We're not here to crush skulls. Well, not only that. Our priority is sabotage. Without their supply lines, the Council's forces on Earth will start crumbling. Kyle raised a hand, silencing the banter. Stay sharp. The Council has grown complacent, but that doesn't mean they're stupid. One mistake, and we're all dead. The transport shuddered as it entered the garrison's sensor perimeter, its cloaking systems working overtime to mask their presence. Mercer's voice crackled over the comms. "You're entering the hot zone. Good hunting." Kyle responded with a simple, "We'll deliver." The docking bay was quiet, save for the occasional hum of a passing drone. The werewolves emerged from the shadows, their movements fluid and synchronized. Kyle led the way, his enhanced senses attuned to every sound and scent. "Two guards," Lucas whispered, pointing to a pair of Karath soldiers stationed near a control panel. Kyle nodded, signaling to Dren and Lucas. The two moved like predators, silent and precise. In seconds the guards were down, their throats slit before they could sound an alarm. Cade stepped forward, plugging a device into the control panel. "Accessing the station's schematics now," he muttered, his fingers flying across the device's interface. "We've got 3 primary targets: the main power generator, the supply depot, and the command center." Kyle considered the plan for a moment. "We split up. Lucas and I will handle the generator. Dren, you take the supply depot. Cade, the command center's yours. Plant the charges, regroup here, and exfiltrate." The pack acknowledged the orders, breaking off into pairs as they navigated the labyrinthine corridors of the garrison. Kyle and Lucas moved with purpose, their steps silent on the metallic floors. The generator room was heavily guarded, a contingent of 6 Karath soldiers patrolling the area. Kyle crouched behind a crate, his muscles coiled like a spring. "Think we can take them quietly?" Lucas asked, his tone skeptical. Kyle smirked. "Quiet's overrated." With a guttural snarl, he launched himself at the nearest guard, his claws tearing through chitinous armor like paper. Lucas followed suit, his speed and precision making him a blur of death. The remaining soldiers scrambled to respond, but the werewolves were relentless. Within moments, the room was silent again, the floor slick with alien blood. Lucas wiped his claws on a nearby console. "So much for subtlety." "Subtlety doesn't scare them," Kyle replied, planting a charge on the generator. "Fear does. Let them find the bodies. Let them know we're here." Dren's approach to the supply depot was as direct as expected. The towering werewolf strode through the storage area, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. Crates of munitions and supplies were smashed, their contents rendered useless. When a squad of Karath soldiers arrived to investigate, they found themselves hopelessly outmatched. "You should have stayed on your ship," Dren growled, hurling one soldier into a stack of crates with bone-crushing force. The others met similar fates, their cries of pain echoing through the depot. By the time Dren was finished, the supply depot was a smoldering ruin, the planted charges ensuring it would remain so. Cade's task was more delicate. The command center was the brain of the garrison, a hub of activity where officers coordinated operations. Cloaked in the shadows, Cade slipped past the guards, his sharp mind calculating every move. Reaching the central console, he plugged in his device, downloading critical data while simultaneously planting a virus to cripple the station's systems. He worked quickly, knowing time was against him. Just as he finished, an alarm blared through the station. Cade cursed under his breath. "Looks like someone found Dren's handiwork." The alarm reached Kyle and Lucas as they returned to the docking bay. Kyle growled, his instincts urging him to fight, but he forced himself to focus. "We stick to the plan. Regroup and extract." Dren arrived moments later, his fur matted with blood. "Guess I made too much noise," he said with a toothy grin. Cade was the last to arrive, a squad of Karath soldiers hot on his heels. "Move!" he barked, diving into the transport as the pack provided cover. Kyle and Dren tore through the pursuing soldiers, buying precious seconds for Cade to activate the transport's defenses. Once inside, the doors slammed shut and the ship's cloaking systems engaged. The pack watched through a monitor as the charges detonated, a series of explosions ripping through the garrison. Fires spread uncontrollably, and the station's lights flickered before going dark. Cale allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction. "That's one supply hub down," he said, leaning back in his seat. "Let's see how the Council likes being hunted." Back on Earth, Mercer and Thorne monitored the mission's success. The holographic display showed the garrison's destruction in real time, and a faint smile crossed Mercer's face. "This is just the beginning," he said, his voice resolute. Thorne nodded, though his expression remained grim. "We've shown them what we can do in the shadows, but now they'll be watching. Next time it won't be so easy." Mercer's gaze hardened. "Good. Let them watch. Let them fear. We're not done yet." The Council's capital ship, Ascendant Will, loomed above Earth's atmosphere like a harbinger of doom. Its immense shadow fell over continents, a stark reminder of the Galactic Council's dominance. On its bridge, High Chancellor Vorlak seethed, his claws digging into the armrests of his command throne. "Report!" he barked, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. A trembling subordinate, a thin Karath with a patch of cracked exoskeleton, hesitated. "The garrison on Draxus. It has been destroyed. Sabotage orchestrated by humans." Vorlax's eyes narrowed, his mandibles clicking with fury. "They dare strike us? Then they will feel the full weight of our wrath. Prepare the planet-killer cannon." In the Resistance's underground headquarters, hidden beneath the Rocky Mountains, Mercer and his team convened around a holographic table. The grim visage of the Ascendant Will rotated slowly above the table, casting an ominous glow on the assembled leaders. "It's a floating fortress," Thorne said, shaking his head. "Bringing that thing down isn't just difficult, it's suicide." Kyle stood silently, his yellow eyes fixed on the hologram. The destruction of the Draxus garrison had been a resounding success, but the Council's response was swift and severe. The Ascendant Will wasn't just a show of force. It was a weapon of annihilation, capable of obliterating entire cities with a single strike. "They won't stop until Earth is ash," Mercer said, his voice low but firm. "We take that ship out, or we lose everything." Thorne frowned. "Even if we wanted to, how? The thing's a fortress. Its shields can withstand a direct nuke, and its defenses will shoot down anything that gets close." "We don't strike the ship," Kyle growled, stepping forward. "We strike its heart." Mercer raised an eyebrow. "The bridge?" Kyle nodded. "Their leader, Vorlax, will be there. We've already proven we can slip through their defenses. We get on that ship, cut off the head, and let the body fall." The plan was reckless, dangerous, perfect. Kyle and his pack boarded a modified stealth vessel, its hull blackened and bristling with makeshift modifications. They would infiltrate the Ascendant Will using a cargo delivery route recently uncovered by Cade's stolen data. Inside the vessel, the pack made their final preparations. Lucas sharpened his blades, his movements methodical and deliberate. Dren checked his weapons, a grin on his face despite the tension in the air. Cade adjusted his gear, ensuring their communication systems were secure. Mercer's voice came over the comms. "Remember, this isn't just about taking out Vorlax. If you can sabotage their primary weapon systems, do it. The more damage we deal, the better our chances." Kyle nodded, though he didn't respond. His focus was absolute, his mind already on the mission ahead. The Ascendant Will was a hive of activity, its corridors swarming with Karath soldiers and automated drones. But Kale and his pack moved like ghosts, their presence unnoticed, as they navigated the labyrinthine structure. Their first target was the Planet Killer Cannon's control room. If they could disable it, Earth would gain precious time to mount a larger resistance. Lucas led the way, his sharp eyes scanning for traps and patrols.
2 guards at the entrance, he whispered, his voice barely audible. Kyle signaled for silence, then pounced. The guards didn't stand a chance. Kyle and Lucas moved as one, their claws and blades striking with precision. Within moments, the control room was theirs. Cade set to work on the cannon's systems, his fingers flying across the console. "This thing is more advanced than anything we've seen," he muttered. "Give me a minute."
"You've got 30 seconds, Kyle growled, his eyes on the door. Dren stood nearby, his massive frame ready for a fight. "Let them come," he said, his voice filled with anticipation. An alarm blared, and the door slid open to reveal a squad of Karath soldiers. Dren charged, his roar echoing through the room as he tore into the enemies. Kyle and Lucas joined the fray, their movements a deadly dance of claws and teeth. "Done!" Cade shouted, pulling away from the console as the room shook. The Planet Killer cannon systems overloaded, sparks flying as its power core ruptured. Kikel growled, "Move!" Their next target was the bridge. The pack moved with urgency, the ship's defenses now on high alert. Turrets emerged from the walls, firing bursts of plasma that forced the werewolves to rely on their agility to survive. Lucas took the lead, his speed unmatched, as he darted between cover. "This way," he called, guiding the pack through a maintenance shaft that led directly to the bridge. The shaft opened into the bridge's rear access corridor. The air was thick with tension as the pack prepared for the final confrontation. Kyle turned to his pack. "This is it. We take out Vorlax, and the Council loses its grip. Stay sharp." The bridge was a sprawling chamber of metal and light, dominated by a massive viewport that displayed Earth below. High Chancellor Vorlax stood at the center, his imposing form surrounded by armed guards and tactical officers. Kyle stepped forward, his claws glinting in the artificial light. "Vorlax!" he roared, his voice filled with fury. The High Chancellor turned, his eyes narrowing. "So the wolves think they can challenge the stars!" The room erupted into chaos. Kyle charged, his pack following close behind. The guards opened fire, plasma bolts scorching the air as the werewolves weaved through the assault. Dren barreled into a group of soldiers, his immense strength sending them flying. Lucas moved with surgical precision, taking out officers before they could react. Cade focused on disabling the bridge's systems, planting charges on critical consoles. Kyle reached Vorlax, their clash a feral display of strength and savagery. The High Chancellor fought with brutal efficiency, his claws and tail striking with calculated precision. But Kyle was relentless, his fury fueled by the atrocities committed against Earth. The fight was brutal and exhausting, but Kyle's determination proved stronger. With a final bone-crushing blow, he brought Vorlax to his knees. "You've lost," Kyle growled, his claws poised to strike. Vorlax sneered, blood dripping from his mandibles. "You may kill me, beast, but the Council will never bow to savages." Kyle's claws flashed, ending Vorlax's reign. With the charges set and the bridge in chaos, the pack made their escape. The Ascendant Will shuddered as explosions rippled through its structure, its once imposing form reduced to a crippled shadow of its former self. The werewolves returned to their vessel, their mission a resounding success. As they descended toward Earth, the pack watched the Council's flagship burn in the sky. Hale turned to his pack, his expression resolute. "The Council thought they could break us. They were wrong. This war isn't over, but tonight we've shown them what it means to face the fury of Earth's wolves." The pack howled, their voices a declaration of defiance and victory.